Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a slightly overcast and rainy Dorset. My name is Ali Board and you are watching Technique Tuesday. Now, no matter how you are watching it, whether you're watching it live on Facebook, whether you're watching it via catch-up on YouTube or over on my website on the Technique Tuesday blog, you are all very welcome indeed. Now, I know some of you have been struggling with your tech the last week or so. Particularly because Facebook and Microsoft and Windows and things aren't playing ball. But I very much hope that we have some live people in the chat today. So if you are watching me live this morning, please do feel free to pop up and say hello. And as you know, there's always a completely fictitious award for the first comment of the day. And the first comment of the day coming in live today comes from Martina, who is saying that it's very wet and very windy where she is, but that makes it a lovely day to paint. And Martina, I couldn't agree more. Who else have we got? We've got the lovely Julie, who is over there in sunny Melbourne. Good morning, lovely. And I understand that you are about to emerge from lockdown. So may you enjoy all of that entails. Ali is in the room. Linda is in the room. Jane. Rosie is over there in France. Good morning, lovely. Anne B. Anne is saying it's dull here too. Lynn is in the room and Susan is in the room too. Thank you very much for tuning in live. Now, before we get to my demonstration today, I just want to pop over and show you a little bit of the website so that when anyone pops up in the chat today and says, what are those materials that Ali is using, you can point them in the right direction and you can go and find them yourself. Who else have we got? Wynne, good morning. Rosemary, good morning. Sandy. Oh, it's sunny in Norfolk. Sandy, that's very nice for you. Anywho, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's show you the bit of the website where you have to go and you can find the links to the materials. So let's show you that. So here is the website. So that is www.learningtopaint.co.uk. So if you pop over to there, now it might look a little bit different on your device. You might be looking at it on a tablet or on a phone, in which case you won't probably see these words up here and all of these little things that my cursor is currently flagging up. You might have a couple of lines up there, but if you tap or click on those lines, it will look absolutely the same. And the bit you're looking for is the one that says free resources. So if you go to free resources and then you click or tap on Technique Tuesday, you will see the blog. Now, admittedly, your blog layout might look a little bit different from this because I'm looking at it on a desktop. But it's all basically pretty much in the same place. So what you're looking for, here we go. I've already put this week's blog up, part 4, returning to the text. And if you click or tap on that read more there, you will see the information come up. There's no video there at the moment, obviously, because we're recording it as we speak. But look down here, there is a link to some of the materials that I'm going to be using. So there's the Bindex, mulberry tissue, sketching pen, the stamp pad and the alphabet stamps that I am going to be using today. So if you get lost or anybody pops up in the chat today and they say, oh goodness me, where am I supposed to find out about those materials? You can point them in the right direction, which is always good, isn't it? Who else have we popped up? Who else has popped up? Who else have we popped up? Who else has popped up since you all disappeared and I was showing you that? Thea, good morning. Anita P. Good morning, my lovely. And Joe, morning to you too. Lovely to have you all here. Thank you very much for taking the time to tune in live. Now, I'm clutching my chest because if I do have a coughing fit, I do apologise. I would try and kill the microphone if that happens. But I had a right old coughing. That's why I was a bit late going live this morning. I had a right old coughing fit before I went live. But let's take you to the overhead camera so that we can catch you up on all the things that I've been doing up to this point, and then we'll push this project on a little bit further, shall we? Morning, Kathy. So here we go. Here is the canvas as it ended last week. So last week, I was talking to you about the textures, about what I'd put on, and then I showed you a scumbling technique where we got these colours on in the background, nice and soft. We had titanium white, we had buff titanium, which we've got a little flash of down here. Morning, Hilary. Morning, Christine. We had the velvet purple. This is all acrylic, incidentally. And we've got Prussian blue going on down here as well. Nice and misty. Really pleased with that background. I am. Yes, Julie, the coffee is hanging about. I'm getting very bored of it now. That's made me cough. That's hilarious. So I was showing you how to lay these colours on and the way that I do it. If you missed last week's demonstration, then don't forget where I showed you, where you can go back to the website and read today's blog. You can see last week's as well, so you can catch up on all of it. You never need to miss a broadcast at all. And the other thing to say very quickly is if you have friends, painting friends, relations who you think might be interested in what I do, they don't necessarily have to have Facebook, of course. Because I archive the demonstrations over on the website, then all they have to have is an internet connection and they'll be able to see them. Thought that was worth pointing out this morning because I know not everybody likes to do Facebook, which is fine. So I've got my colours down. They're nice and dry now. And I think I said to you last week that I wasn't really sure where this was going and how it was going. And I sort of felt a little bit like I'd lost my way with it. Which is okay. It's, you know, you can lose your way with projects. That's fine. And so what I've done is I had this propped up in the studio for a good week. And it wasn't until yesterday that I had a bit of an epiphany with it. And I think I know where it's going now. I'm not going to tell you all of the things that I think are where it's going because I want to keep some of them for next week. But I suddenly realised that I'd kind of abandoned the text, which was where we started. I kind of got distracted with it. So what was the text that we were talking about? Again, over on the website, you can watch this back. This was a found poem that I put together. And a found poem is taking parts of an original poem and appropriating them, putting them back together. And so we ended up with this, which was where our inspiration started. This was after I had been to see the band Elbow. And it was some of their motifs that they were talking about, some of the things that are important to me in their lyrics. But it was also hilarious things like I was recounting the story of how I'd lost my voice when I was singing. And so part of the lyric, part of the found poem says, but being hoarse and nodding head, so keepeth time. And funnily enough, look at that. What was it? 4 or 5 weeks later, still got the hoarse voice. So I wanted to return to this text, and I'm glad that I made that. I think Chris B was saying this was like a little memory card, and it's proved to be very useful. Morning, Jeanette. Lovely to have you back. Very, very nice of you to join us this morning. Thank you very much. We were talking about this memory card, and it's proved to be very useful sticking these bits of text to a piece of recycled paper because it's kind of given it greater value. It means that it's something that I can return to all of those times that I've needed a bit of fresh inspiration, and it's just been sitting propped up on the corner of my desk just up there on top of my record player. It's been quite nice to be reminded of it. Morning, Joe. So that's been fantastic. So that text is the text I wanted to return to. But before I did this, oh, it's a line of Joes this morning. Morning, Joe. Lots of Joes. You wait for one, they all come along at once. So let me take you through the thought process that I had when I was prepping for this. Okay. Now I wanted to put some text back on my canvas, and there are lots of ways that I could do that. I could write on my canvas with a pen. Morning, Mary. Lovely to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. I could write back on it. I could collage back onto it. I could stamp back onto it. And I didn't know which one of those things I wanted to do. So here's where I started. I took a piece of normal kind of writing paper, lined journal paper. And I went through all of my pens. Let's just grab them. I'm not going to be demonstrating all of these. Not that one. Don't panic. It was just because I went through all of my pens trying to decide what it was I wanted to do and where it was I wanted to go with this. Now, why grey? A lot of you that know my work and follow my work on a regular basis will know that I am a fan of a grey pen. Hard to imagine that, isn't it, with this fistful of pens that I have. I am a big fan of grey. I just find it slightly softer than a black pen, slightly less harsh, slightly, it's not going to stand out quite as much. It's going to fade into the background a little bit. So I thought what I would do is I would go through them all, just for the sake of it, to reacquaint myself with these pens. And I effectively wrote on this piece of journal paper what they were, and also to kind of reacquaint myself with the thickness of them. So we've got the Stabilo 0.68 Unipin in a dark grey and a light grey, a Sharpie, what was that? That was a brush pen, watercolour marker, a couple of Posca pens, and good old pencil down here too. And then I went through them because I was thinking to myself, if I do write straight on the canvas, what effect is that going to have on anything that I do over the top of it? So then I went through and reminded myself whether they're waterproof or not. So I was kind of going down, going yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, all of that kind of stuff. Not that I necessarily wanted it to be waterproof. I just wanted to make sure that I understood my options. So I did that. Then I decided that I didn't want to write on the canvas. It's such an artist thing, isn't it? Do all this thing, then you go, nope, not going to do that. So I kind of abandoned that and thought to myself, well, if I do write on the canvas or write on something, then I kind of need to practice my handwriting as well. Excuse me. So I rewrote out the found a piece of poem, and I was kind of practicing my handwriting as well, as daft as that sounds, because sometimes I print this out using my computer and do it, but for some reason, can't really pinpoint why, it felt a lot more personal for me to be writing on it or on something else. So I was kind of practicing my handwriting. And I know there's an argument that my handwriting might not be quite as beautiful as it could be. I have done calligraphy in the past, but I didn't want it to be that formal. I just wanted it to be a bit of a reflection of me. And so I was practicing all of those things, and I was thinking, well, if I don't write on the canvas, if that's the thing that I really don't want to do, what am I going to write on? And my default setting for writing on things or using collage is tissue paper. So let's just put this to one side. So I started, now this is a piece of mulberry tissue. So this is a tissue paper that's got fibres running through it. I'm sure you can see that in the camera. And what that means is that when you tear it, let's get it up into the camera. Can you see it's got a really beautiful torn edge? We'll talk more about that in a second. But this is the mulberry tissue. Now, this stuff used to be fantastically easy to find, and now it's quite difficult, but I have managed to find one source of it, and I have put that link over on the website, okay? So then I started using the various pens that I was testing straight onto the mulberry tissue to see if I liked them. And basically the bottom line was that this was my kind of another default setting of mine. This was my Unipin pen in the dark grey, which out of my selection was the pen that I liked the most, and it was waterproof, so it's not going to interfere with anything at all. So I started writing that out. Wasn't sure whether I quite liked that, so I tried another one, and I tried my Posca pen. Now, because the Posca pen is quite liquid, on this very fine, very absorbent tissue, the words started to bleed, and I have enough trouble with my own handwriting without it looking untidy when the pen bleeds on the paper. Morning, Linda. So I kind of abandoned those two. And as much as I do like this pen, and I might go back in with this pen and do other things with it, there's a link on the website for this, by the way, I actually realised that of all the things that I liked writing with, actually a good old-fashioned pencil was the thing that I liked the most. So I then started playing around with that. Now, I then started writing the poem out as I had laid it out in the, I hope you're following this. It's like a bedtime story, isn't it? Stick with me, folks. It gets more interesting in a minute. I had laid my found poem out in this way. Yay! Kath is in the room. Good morning, lovely. I'd laid my poem out in this way. And so I laid it out the same way on the piece of paper and still felt it was a little bit disjointed. So what I did after that was I went back and I wrote it out in a block format so that there wasn't any differentiation between the lines. There were, and I'm going to demonstrate that in just a second, that it was all one block. So what I ended up with was a piece of tissue paper that looked like that. And obviously it had a tissue paper top and bottom as well. Then I realised that if I tear it, I have quite a nice kind of little snapshot of text. I have text appearing and disappearing on various parts of my piece. And hopefully when I collage it on, it's going to look a lot better. So I've got 2 pieces ready prepared because, you know me, I'm a prepared girl. But I wanted to show you how I did that. Then I can show you how I stick them on. Then I can show you something else that I'm going to do with it. So I'm going to stick this to one side, woo, just temporarily. Let's rescue those bits of collage. So it looked like that originally. Now let's go back. This was the piece of mulberry tissue that it was attached to. Let's go back and let's find my lines, because as much as I'm not the greatest of calligraphers, I'm not too shabby, but I'm not the greatest of calligraphers, I need to follow some lines. So all I did was put the tissue paper over the top of a ruled piece of paper, then I can work back into it. And I am going to stick with my pencil for this. So here is that found poem, and I'm going to do a little bit of writing. So this surface might be a little bit soft, but we'll give it a go. So we've got a concert of birds, bow, and I'm not worrying too much about spacing because I'm going to be breaking it up in a second anyway. So the music might be full in parts, in embassy. So this is really dull watching this, isn't it? But you kind of get the gist. Unto the king of bees, to bear the base, to his well-tuned song, but being hoarse and nodding head. Why did I go for such a long piece? So keepeth time. There we go. So it's all written out. And then, of course, when I take that away, what I'm left with is some text that is relatively on the straight and narrow, but kind of looks a little bit lost and found. And Ali is and Linda and Rosie are making very nice comments. Thank you very much. So to tear this, there's lots of ways you can do it. I'm going to show you the very, very quick way of doing it, where you get a nice edge. So you can fold it and tear it, but it does go a little bit haphazard. But there's a lovely cheat for this. So I've got a brush. This is one of my oil and acrylic painting brushes that we talked about last week. And I've got a little pot of water over here. So I'm going to take some water. I'm going to take the excess off, and I'm going to paint a wet line across my mulberry tissue. And you can probably already tell where this is going. We'll paint a wet line over here, and then if we let that water soak in a little bit, it means that I can tear along that line, and what I get is a line that I can then control, but I still get those fabulous fluffy ends to my piece of text. So let's, where should we break it up? What else have we got? So we've already got a bit of that up there. I'm kind of after the middle section this time. So let's do another really fine line down here. Let's do a quick one, and let's send it all the way through that bit of text. I can keep these bits. I might be using them later. Morning, Lynn. Let's give a bit of a tear. Yes, I realise that some of you are having some issues with your broadcast. I gather that there's a problem with Facebook and some... Oh, that one's broken in two. That's kind of quite serendipitous, isn't it? Possibly with Microsoft, all those sorts of things. So my apologies if you are having problems, but hopefully it's coming through okay. So let's put another one down here. So I'm glad you're liking the tip about wetting the paper. It's I was given that tip ages ago, and it's so useful. It works on all paper. Obviously, just the thicker the paper, the longer you've got to allow it to sink in. This is really, really thin stuff. And so I've got that bit as well. That's interesting. And then let's just, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to do, folks? I don't know. I'm dithering. That's not a good sign, is it? Let's split that one there. Now, this is more collage material than I actually need, but it's better to have more and do a little bit of a pruning process than it is to not have enough and then be struggling and kind of faffing about trying to find what it is that you need. So we've got another bit there, and we've got another bit there. So we've got lots to play with, in other words. So let's just stack those up and let's get our canvas back in. Then we will have a look and see where I want to put them on my canvas. Now, this is very much an aesthetic thing. This is very much I've done plenty of collage in the past, so I kind of know what works for me. But also it is an aesthetic in that I like horizontals and verticals. I don't like things on diagonals. That is nothing to do with anything. There's no rule involved in that. I'm not doing that because that's like the 8th deadly art sin. It's simply because I don't like things on the diagonal. I don't like things on the diagonal in my garden or in my house either. It drives my husband insane. One of the many things that drives my husband insane about me. So that is just something that I like. So I'm mindful of the fact that I want some things horizontal and I want some things vertical. Where I'm going to put those, I haven't quite decided. What I also need to decide is which bits I'm going to use. So I quite like this, because that was the title of our piece, wasn't it? A Concert of Birds. And that might be giving you a little bit of an inkling as to next week where I'm going to push this project. Now, I've got these mirror tiles up here, and I wanted those to kind of poke through. So I'm liking this. You're hardly going to see this when I'm done. At the moment, it looks subtle, but it's going to get a lot more subtle than that. And then, so what have we got? We've got that, which would be quite nice over there, I think, in that pale bit, so that we see the King of Bees thing. Is there a bee up there as well? No, perhaps we should save that. There's a bee here. Perhaps, let's get rid of those a second. Perhaps I should put that where there is a bee, where it says King of Bees. Am I overthinking this too much, I wonder? Right, let's get rid of that. And let's put a third one in, and we'll put it just there underneath that little mirror tile too. Now, I'm not going to do any more with that. It would be tempting to pebble dash my way through this, but I don't want to overdo it. Not yet. Later on, possibly, but not yet. And how am I going to stick those down? I am going to stick those down with a product called Bindex. I have not got enough room on my drawing board for everything. Let's just get my tear off palette in there. What is Bindex? This is Bindex. This is a medium for acrylic painting. You could use PVA glue if you water it down. You could use Mod Podge if you water it down. You could use acrylic mediums if you water them down. All of those things are absolutely valid. I particularly like Bindex simply because it's the absolute right consistency for me when I do my collage work. And it dries very, very quickly, much faster than anything that I would have to water down. If you want the link of where to find this, it's over on the website, okay? And I'll show you the website again just at the end of the broadcast so that you can double check where to find these things. So let's take the lid off the Bindex and let's try to ungum the lid. Perhaps, Ali, you should have done that before the broadcast. Now I'm going to squeeze a little bit out. I don't need a lot, and if you're wondering why it's running, it's because my board is at an angle. And somewhere under here is my brush. Now I'm going to use my oil and acrylic brush for this, and I'm going to show you the way that I do collage. This is not the only way to do collage, this is just the way that I like to do it. So I'm going to take a little bit of that Bindex, And I'm going to coat the bristles of my brush so that it's nice and even and it's not too thick. Goldilocks principle. And what I'm going to do is over here, I'm going to put a little layer of Bindex down on my canvas. This is all acrylic, so it's not going to move. And then I'm going to lay my piece of collage material into that glue. And then I'm going to use the Bindex over the top like a bit of a Bindex sandwich. And what that will do is it will penetrate the tissue paper. And so all that I should be able to see is a vague hint of that text that I wrote down. I will show you more of that in just a second. So let's do the big one over here so that you get more than one opportunity to see me doing that. So let's get that Bindex on, probably a bit easier to see down here. Let's make sure that it's thin. I don't want any kind of gloopy bits. The great thing about this, for those of you who are shouting at me, but you haven't told them how to lift off the Bindex afterwards, Ali, that's a watercolour technique for those of you who know what I'm talking about. I don't need to worry about that. I'm working in acrylic. So I'll show you that another day. So over here, still haven't made it high enough. We've got my piece of tissue. I want that king of bees to be next to the bee. And then we take our Bindex, we penetrate that tissue. Let's wrap that tissue around the edge. Shows up a little bit better here because the colour that's underneath is paler. And you can always wet it as well, just a tiny little bit of water. But don't forget that you need to put the Bindex over the top, otherwise it won't stick down properly. You can't just put the Bindex underneath. Because then what will happen is the next time you come to paint, your brush will probably hit the end of the tissue paper and it will sort of flick it up and then you'll be in trouble. So we've got a nice kind of little random bit of text. Morning everybody who's just joined. Mum is in the room. She's apologising for being late. Never apologise, Mum. Then we've got this last little bit of text going in here. So let's get our glue in really quickly, get our Bindex on. Oh, I haven't gone nearly far enough with that. I'm being really quite brutal with it because I can be. Because this is a canvas and an acrylic surface, I don't have to worry about being particularly kind to it. So we'll get that on, we'll wet it just a little bit to get it started. There we go. And then we'll get the Bindex over the top. So we'll scrub that in. Let's get those last little bits on and get it all laid down onto the paper. And then what I'll do is I will get close-up camera involved. Let's move that over. Let's stick my brush in the water so you can see it. It is evident, but perhaps not, well, just exactly how I like it really. Not as bold as you might expect. So it's kind of dipping in and out. So there's that piece at the bottom. You can see that piece. There's the king of bees going on up there. Let's move that over so that you can see it. And that little textural bee that we put in right at the start. Okay. So it's looking good. Right, I need to dry that very, very quickly. Where's my heat gun gone? Let's get that in. Give it a, oh no, not quite that bad. I'm only really drying it so that you can see what it looks like when the Bindex has gone off a little bit. So we'll get it on, we'll get it fairly dry. And we'll see what it looks like. Okay. So I can see, you might not be able to, or perhaps you can see from where you are, the Bindex does dry with a little bit of a shine, okay? And that's what I was talking about before. If you really hated that shine, then you could re-wet it. But actually, by the time I have done everything that I want to do, over the top of this. I'm really not going to worry about a tiny bit of gloss going on there because I've got other things to do on this. Now it's not quite as dry as I would like it to be. So if you decide to do this, just make sure, I can still feel that that tissue paper is quite damp because it's absorbed a lot of glue, and I've basically shown it the heat gun and not really done it properly. So if you do something similar, make sure that you dry it really, really well. Now, the other type of text that I want to include on this is a type of text that I have shown you before, which is using these alphabet stamps. And these are rubber stamps. Each letter is individual, and you've got lowercase up there, you've got uppercase, and then you've got some numbers and things like an exclamation mark, question mark, full stop, ampersand, those kind of things. So I'm going to use those because I want to stamp a little bit of text back into this along the same lines, using that same found poem, but I'm going to do it in a very different way. And the thing that I'm going to use for this is I'm going to use a stamp pad. So traditionally you have a rubber stamp, you have a stamp pad, stamp it in, stamp it on. That's all good. And it's a nice, easy way of getting text on. A little bit time consuming, but a good way of getting text on. But I wanted to show you these. So this is a stamp pad. This is made by the Ranger company. And the reason that I use these is that they are archival, which means they're not going to fade, which is good news for me. So it means I don't have to worry about if this canvas ends up being something that goes on my wall or somebody else's wall. I don't have to worry about it fading. But also look down here. So it's acid free, permanent. That's to do with the light fastness. But look, waterproof. So it means that I can stamp my letters on and I don't have to worry about them shifting when I paint over the top. If you want the link to this particular pad, this is Shadow Grey, then it's over on the blog. So here we go. I use this all the time. Actually, these Ranger stamp pads are brilliant. If you're thinking of investing in one. This is the Shadow Grey because it kind of sticks in with the theme of the pencil and everything else that we've got going on. Now for this, I've already started it. Look, I've been a bit sneaky. I've got a letter A down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get close-up cam involved again so that you can see it. Let's just line it up so that you can see it properly and we don't get too much shine off the light. Let's maybe take... No, that light doesn't make any difference. Perhaps we're just going to have to get right in and maybe it will adjust. Maybe if I take the light away a little bit. No, it's not liking that. Right, bear with me, folks. I just want to turn one of the lights off, which I will have to turn on. There we go, that's better. And then you can see it more clearly. Actually, let's kill the lights everywhere. I can work in the dark. That's all right, isn't it? Oh, dear. Remind me somebody to put the lights back on. So there we've got that letter A, okay? And let's show you exactly how I do this. So I've got my stamp pad just here, okay? I'm going to find my uppercase C, the letter C. Here it is, into shot. So obviously backwards so that you can see it. Let's come out just a little bit so that we can see what we're doing. Oh, it's not liking the light conditions in here today. Anywho, there's the letter C. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap it into that grey stamp pad. Let's take that away. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to stamp my letter C. And there we go. There it is on the canvas. You can see it nice and clearly, but what it is not kind of overdoing it. I'm putting my hands there to shield the camera because it's not liking reading that bottom left hand corner. Let's put my hand there, that's better. I'm faffing about because I really want you to see this up close. So I'm just going to correct the colour on this. Let's take it down a little bit and let's take the contrast down a bit. That's better. Take the brightness down a little bit too. It makes my hand look very, very suntanned, but now you can see it much more clearly. So let's repeat that. So that was the letter C. So we need an O now for concert, don't we? So we've got my stamp pad. We've got my letter O right there. So we're going to tap that into the stamp pad And then over here on the canvas, we're going to put an O. Now these don't line up. They're not kind of neat and tidy. They're not supposed to be. Let's repeat that process again. Oh, I've got stamps going everywhere this morning. So I've got my letter N. So into my shadow grey stamp pad. Is that the right way up? No, it's not. Nearly made a massive boo-boo then, didn't I? Into the N, and let's stamp that on the surface. So there we go, starting to kind of come together now. Should we do a couple more just before we end today's broadcast? So I've got a letter C, tapping into the stamp pad, onto there. So it will read a concert of birds down here at the bottom, and maybe I'll do some other lettering to this to add to the text before I do any more work to this. So there's my letter E. I think I know what's going to go as the main feature on this, but I've got to live with it for a week before I share that with you next week. It's one of the joyful things actually about doing Technique Tuesday is that it stops me rushing on. It means I have to prop it up in the corner of the studio, give it a week or so to kind of look at it and understand it better. And what it's doing is stopping me really kind of faff about with it. So there we go. So we've got that lettering going on at the bottom. And I know that seems time consuming. I know it does. But sometimes things are very best kind of kept for processes where you need to take a little bit of time. If you're wondering why this is really kind of getting very bright now, it's because I've turned all of the lights on before we go back to the front on camera and then to the overhead camera. So there you go, down in that bottom corner, look, starting to construct an extra little bit of text. And like I said, those Ranger pads are both permanent, light fast and waterproof as well. So that's kind of going to sit underneath anything else that I paint over the top. So we've really pushed this on today, haven't we? Starting to build up those layers, starting to build up those textures, and before we put on whatever it is that we're going to do next week, which I've sort of decided, but like I said, if I tell you what it is now, anyway, that spoils the surprise. It means you guys have to tune in next week to see it, and I might change my mind, and you might think, hang on a minute, Ali, hang on a minute, you said you were going to paint a on the top, all right? What else have we got to tell you about? Right, what I want to tell you about is where to find these things. Do you remember I said that I've put some nice easy links so that you don't have to scour the internet for these products? So let's go back to that website. So you've got the www.learningtopaint.co.uk website. You find the free resources, which might be in text form in the top right hand corner of your device, or it might be a couple of little parallel lines which you need to tap on to release that menu. You go to Technique Tuesday, and there, because it is the current week, you might have to scroll down if you're watching this back past the 26th of October. Now you can see Artistic Intuition Part 4, Returning to the Text. Tap on Read More or click on Read More, and there you've got a few little extra insights from me, and here are those links. So you've got the Pebeo Bindex, you now know what I'm talking about. The Pebeo Bindex, which was the glue that I used for my collage, the mulberry tissue, which I wrote on for my text, that Unipin sketching pen, I've put that link on because it's quite rare to find a waterproof sketching pen that's in dark grey. There's that Ranger archival stamp pad and the alphabet stamps too. So hopefully that gives you some idea of where you can easily find links to the products that I have been using today. Lynn is saying, if you buy the Ranger ink pad, may I suggest you also buy the re-inker at the same time? Yes, actually, that's very good advice, Lynn. Just to actually mine, I have to say, one of the other reasons that I like the Ranger pads is this pad has to be at least 4 years old now, and it's still going strong. But yes, a re-inker, something that puts new ink on it, is a good idea. Thank you very much for sharing that. So I'm hoping that has given you a tiny bit of inspiration. If you're working on a similar project or you fancy having a go yourself, to kind of how you can include your text, going back to those original sources of what you can do with the found poetry, with adding text via collage, adding text via stamped letters. The possibilities are endless for that. These are just some of my favourite techniques and the things that I like doing. I need to sit here for 10 minutes after the broadcast now and finish off the little bits and pieces that I am planning on doing. And then I need to have a really good think about where this project is going and what else is going to happen with it. But I think I know. Not 100%, but I think I know. I've just got to do a little bit of reference and a bit of research before next week. Technique Tuesday will be back with you next Tuesday live on the Learning to Paint with Alison Seaboard Facebook page. But don't forget, it is always archived on YouTube and it's always archived on the blog too. I hope no matter where you are in the world that you are continuing to stay very safe. It's very lovely to see you and share my projects with you. So until I see you next week, please take care of yourselves, keep taking care of each other too, and we'll catch up very soon. All right, lovely people. Bye.